Hello, you all. Welcome to the Player Development Pod. Thank you so much for being here. I have Usman Kamara. Now, before he introduces himself, his podcast up here is the most watched podcast per hour on this platform. So thank y'all so much for taking time to watch it. But we about to talk about house settlement, revenue sharing, roster cuts, the whole nine, players getting back pay. Because I'm pretty sure Usman will get a check. He was in that. He was in that era. But Usman, we'll get straight to it. If you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll get rolling with the questions.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ed, having me on the podcast here again. I got a chance to go to the Player Development Summit, do the live podcast
Oh
there.
yeah, I forgot to talk about that. That was coming. That was coming, y'all.
Yeah, nah, it's all good. And then, a couple months before that, being on here, and like you said, most watched podcast. I appreciate all the viewers, for thinking highly of me and the words, the free game that I was giving y'all to tap in and take some advice from me and what we're doing here. And again, it's not the end all be all. It's not the Bible. It's just a little insight on what Oregon Duck football is doing to level up their players. But yeah, Usman Kamara, originally from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, East Coast kid, played at West Virginia for 5 years. Got an MBA degree from there, and then worked for their program for 2 years in player development space, leading their player development department. And then in January of 23, came here to be a Duck, and haven't really looked back. Being able to take everything that God's given me, and honestly, I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do right now. One, without God, but then two, Dan Lanning, seeing the vision and having the importance or seeing the importance in developing, the whole human being. We develop our players holistically here, so. Before we jump into it, I will say, I think we've been developing our players and preparing our players for this time before we even knew that it was coming at a high level, and just teaching our guys how to be professionals. So I appreciate it again, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'd be the first question. Because I know once again, people, if you're watching this, nobody was caught off guard by this. But if you could talk about like what you thought when it did clear, for lack of a better word, and then what that preparation you just mentioned, what did that preparation look like preparing these athletes for this? I've seen the work you've been doing, but I want you to talk about the work you've been doing.
Yeah. First when I heard about it, great for the student athletes. Obviously, like you mentioned, I'll be getting that back pay, 26,
Mm.
2021 athlete. So definitely looking forward to that check. Didn't really know that this was going to be happening. So definitely going to do well with those funds. Things that I tell our guys to do with their money. I'm gonna take my own advice and do with my money. But really how we were preparing, really how we've been preparing is just being transparent with our guys, asking them the hard questions, being observant. There's a lot of people on our staff that have played at a high level, played in the NFL. And so just using the people here, we have a term we say living off the land, living off the resources that we have. So asking them, what is it that you need to enhance your performance on the field, to enhance your everyday life? What is it for our alumni? What was it that you maybe have been lacking or you missed out on during your experience that would have propelled you into a career outside of football? If the NFL wasn't your destiny, what can we have put around you to prepare you to be that much more successful and optimize, your performance or your talents and everything like that. And so, really just like I said, no stone goes unturned, and just thinking big and putting the best resources in front of our guys. And then I think the biggest point is teaching them how to implement the resources and the education that you're giving them into their day-to-day life, because we all can read 1,000 books and listen to 1,000 podcasts and listen to a whole bunch of guest speakers, but if we're not enacting those things that we're taking in, really just wasting our time. And so we've hit a plethora of different things, just again just centers around being a professional in all different walks of life. How you do anything is how you do everything.
I love that. I love that. And the preparation is so key. It's so key. And even in that preparation, you're in the role, I was in the role. Even no matter how much you prepare, there's always concerns. What were
Yep.
some of the biggest concerns you either had or still have with athletes in this new model?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are 18, some 17 to 23-year-old young men, and they're having to grow up a lot faster than, even I had to.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I left college in 2021. And so just the maturation process is sped up a lot.
Mhm.
And, it worries me that there's going to be more and more people, vultures out there that are trying to take advantage of these guys. There's going to be a lot more irresponsibility from administration and the student athlete. There's just a lot more ownership that comes with this rolling out. But there is a lot of great benefit to it, but too much is given, as much is required. And so it's just going to push our guys to be that much more mature, be professionals at an early age. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself on the podcast, but one thing that I've really been trying to study is the NBA's model. These guys been doing the one and dones since, I want to say it started like real prevalent in the 1990s, mid 1990s, and then the guys graduating high school and then going straight into the NBA, into the league, started predominantly in the 1990s. But the one and done, I believe it was 2006 that you started.
Wow.
NCAA implemented. You had to be either 19 or you had to do 1 year of college to be able to be eligible to go into the NBA draft. And so just using that model and how they were preparing their athletes, kids essentially, to be
Right.
professionals at a young age is something that I've been doing just to prepare and to kind of base our model after. And then again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but we can speak on this later if you want to. But I think of it as like the kind of the analogy of the Nickelodeon and Disney superstar back in the day, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we see, how they've matured and who they are today and the pressures that they had back in the day. Most of those were breadwinners of their family. You have people coming out of the woodworks, to take care of you, and you're 13 years old. And I say all that to say is, as these guys in college start to be monetized and turn into professionals, they're still amateurs, but essentially turn into professionals. It's all going to be trickled down. And so there's going to be the middle school kid that's looking for his NIL deal. There's going to be the high school kid that's getting NIL that needs these college or these traditional college player development prep courses.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we see middle school kids putting out their top 5 high schools that they're going to commit to. Like, again,
Crazy.
it's crazy. It's crazy. And there's a lot of benefit, but again, there's a detriment to it as well. What happens just to the genuine approach to playing the game because we love it, playing the
Right.
game for the camaraderie, playing the game for the lessons that it teaches us, and honestly, just keeping us out of trouble. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of benefit for it, but there are also are some things that we have to be cautious of.
Well, since we're here, I mean, we here, right? I love the brilliance of like thinking of that model. So if you could take us through that, you got to give it all because you got to do your job. You got to be the best at what you're doing. People do
We got to
listen.
recruit now.
You
That's it.
already got, they listen. They definitely listen when you talk. If you could take us through the aspect of like getting to that spot. Because I think one thing I talked to Gus Felder a couple weeks back, and what I love about like you and others that do great in this space is that critical thing is that problem solving. It's like this is what everybody's talking about, but what is near this? And for you to go to the NBA model and be like, oh, there's some similarities. Like, how do you get to that point, right? Because it's easy for me to say to somebody like you got to think outside the box, right? But like strategically, how do you get to that? Because I've talked to you, and y'all can listen to podcasts up here again. Just talk
Yeah.
about that process.
Um, I really just think from a business standpoint, and people are the consumer. The student athletes, 18 to 23-year-old, 17 to 23-year-old young men are the consumer, and it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. Like I said at the beginning of this talk, just using the resources around you, the people around you, and asking them the real questions. Again, not trying to reinvent the wheel. What helped for Johnny may help for Matt down the road. And just putting the best of the best around them and using the people, like I said, around me, my mentors, people that have been in college athletics for a long time, have been in the sports industry for a long time, and have seen people make great decisions and have made big business out of their athletic career. And then some people that just don't do it the right way and kind of go down into where they don't want to be. I'll just say that essentially. And don't make the best of the opportunity and everything that comes with playing at this high level, the network that you can obtain, just being in these walls or in this business. And so, yeah, just using the people around me, using examples, case studies on how people have been successful in the past, and just bringing those resources and that education to our guys, and just let them know, just, hey, man, this is hard. I'm not telling you it's going to be easy, but again, to be successful, you're gonna have to do the common uncommonly. And to be successful, you're going to have to do what other people aren't willing to do. You're not going to be able to live the traditional 17 to 23-year-old lifestyle. There are some things that you'll be able to do, but the level in which you have to operate living that lifestyle is going to be different. And so you have to be okay with that. This is the life that you chose. This is the life that you've wanted, but you just didn't necessarily know what came with it, right? I believe I was listening to Gus's podcast that you guys did, and he was talking about people being envious of other people's bank accounts. We tell everybody, you may be envious of the bank account, but you don't know what his tax bill is. You don't know what his credit card bill is. You see the Gucci, the Ferragamo, the Balenciaga, all that stuff, but you don't see what the credit card statement is. My guy's credit score might be a 510, but
Look,
you're thinking that everything is smooth
right.
sailing.
Yeah.
And we have this analogy here. We say, hold out your ice cream cone. So hold out your ice cream cone, Ed. All right. So, what's your favorite type of ice cream?
I'm a Rocky Road. I like that ice cream with the crunch and all that. That's me.
Okay, I can't do the ice cream, so I'm gonna just leave it to y'all. I'll do a little sherbet, maybe a little water ice. Uh, People call it Italian ice. It's water ice. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
Yeah.
beside the fact. All right. So Ed, you have somebody next to you.
Mhm.
Just for the cause of the exercise, you have somebody next to you. What type of ice cream do they have on their cone?
They got strawberry, vanilla and strawberry mix.
Strawberry. How many sprinkles do they got?
Ooh, I
Stop
can't.
you right there. You stop
I
you
can't
right
see.
there.
Yeah.
You shouldn't know how many sprinkles they got. You shouldn't know how much ice cream they had because while you're doing all that, what's happening to your hand right now? You got ice cream melting all
Ice
over
cream
your hand.
melting all over my hand.
Right. So worry about what's in your ice cream cone, how many sprinkles you got. Don't worry about what the next man got because while you worrying about what the next man got, your own blessings are melting right in front of you.
Man, that's there it is again, y'all. Like I know that's gonna be a clip and it's gonna go crazy on YouTube. There it is, y'all. This is why, y'all.
I gotta give props to Tosh Lupoy. That's his analogy. I stole it from him. But I'm gonna use it though. I'm gonna
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. No,
'Cause, I mean, it
that's
sticks.
real.
It makes perfect sense. And it makes perfect sense.
No, that's real. I love that. Now, going into that, now I know you're already thinking about this, but in what areas can player development continue to provide value, right? I talked about this and I know what I saw going, and I could see there are cuts happening, unfortunately. But what value can player development bring in this new area, this
I,
era, excuse me, this new model?
I think, the need for player development is going to continue to heighten. And to go back to that analogy that I was making about the Disney Channel star, the young kid, the adolescent, that was a star, that was the breadwinner. I think the biggest thing is mindfulness and mental health
Yeah.
and relationship building. And again, going back to Gus's podcast, he hit it right on the head. Just finding guys and just putting your arm around them, and being intentional about putting your arm around them and letting them know that you're there for them, and if it and being strategic about how you do that. If it's a guy that doesn't necessarily isn't the most outspoken, or is a little shy, putting people around him, surrounding people that he's comfortable with around him in a setting like Gus was talking about, having those guys over at his house and things like that. And then being intentional about spending time with that kid and getting to know them. But just letting the guys know that you're here for them, that they have a soundboard, somebody that actually knows what's going on, that is literally living life with them day to day, because we're here all the time, and whether these guys like it or not, we spend a whole lot of time around them, and so connection is our biggest pillar in our program, and so making sure that we're intentional about connecting with our players and knowing about their families, their struggles, the girlfriends, and knowing the names of their family members and the girlfriend and all
Yeah.
that stuff, like that goes a long way. They're not going to know, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so just being intentional about relationship building, but for sure, where we can enhance, our education and what we bring to the table is from a financial literacy standpoint. And I'm not just talking about the basics, there's always been the traditional, oh yeah, we do financial literacy. No, it's like actually creating relationships with financial advisors, with accountants that are helping our guys with taxes, that are helping them save money when it comes to taxes, building business and infrastructures around the athlete because they are the business. They're 1099 independent contractors, and so how do you put parameters around your model to make sure that you're saving money when it comes to taxes, and you're sending money the right way. Setting up LLC S corps and creating or making your parents employees of that S corp, and so that you're giving them their money that gets like as a salary. Basically, you're not just Venmoing them or Zelling them $100 or $1,000 here and there. But again, it's on us as player development directors to build those relationships. Obviously, you want to bring in administration so that they feel comfortable with the voices that you're bringing into the room, especially the head coach as well. Head coaches are very particular about the voices that are stepping in front of their team, and so making sure that we're vetting those individuals thoroughly. Thoroughly, I'll say that again, thoroughly, because
Yes.
there's going to be a lot of people out here just looking for the check. But vetting those people and bringing those people to our student athletes and teaching our guys how to create relationships with these individuals, how to give your vision or your goals to these individuals and letting them go out and put it into effect for you. I tell all of our guys, especially with finances, you want to be the captain of that ship, but
Yes.
understand that you're going to need a team around you. But it's going to take you to have the wherewithal and the education to know what you want to be, what plays you want to draw up, and it's on them to go out and produce or perform those plays. But you also have to know when there's a mistake, what needs to be coached up, and all those things. When we're going to go into the good, bad, and the ugly on Monday morning after that game. Again, just putting it all into football terminology for them. They are the coach of their team, of their finance team, and so that from that standpoint, teaching these guys how to invest from a real estate standpoint, residential real estate is great, but it also comes with a lot of hassle. You got to worry about Tom down the street paying you on that's a college student paying you on time. He may
Right.
bust he may bust up a refrigerator or a shower head might mess up, and then that's on you. As the landlord to go in and take care of that. But one thing that we're trying to teach our guys particularly about is commercial real estate. And again, I
Yeah.
can't get too much into the weeds because I think we got something cooking here that is going to make us the best in the country. But we're definitely setting our guys up for success, for longevity. It's not about the lifestyle that you want to live right now at 20. It's the lifestyle that you're going to live at 50 and live in that same lifestyle, or honestly, even better. This is just the launch pad.
Yeah.
From my standpoint, investing in real estate, stocks, all those things. Agent education. How do you vet agents? What are you looking for out of an agent? What is public relations, PR? What is branding? What
Yeah.
is how do you publicly speak? Articulating yourself in a way that allows you to be respected. How do you show up in a space from an attire standpoint? Teaching our guys, the different classifications of attire and what you need to wear to be to be appropriate in those
Mm.
settings, in different settings, from casual to business casual to after five to formal to
Yeah.
all those things. And so again, we don't leave any stone unturned. We try to hit every need that has a void, fill every void, and just really again, it boils down to how do you be a professional, be a pro, and all those skills that you're going to build to be a pro in the college athlete space is all going to be transferable into anything that you do. And I know the NFL is the enticing factor for our guys, and just like everybody across the country, the guys want to have that golden jacket and walk across that stage one day. But the things that football is going to build out of you, the things that you can learn, we're going to allow you to be successful in anything that you want to put your mind to.
See, I love that. I love that you all are bringing up relationship building, because the big thing there is like with this, and this is what my thought processes, right? When I saw this coming when I was in it, I'm like, man, they're just gonna be jersey numbers, right? And money, it's just gonna be transaction. Everything is here's your transaction, here's your money. Did you show up? Did you perform? Here it is, right? And I know that's not every single place, but I know that in some mindsets it can become that. And then in this age of AI as well, like there's so much like there's no personalization per se. So I love the relationship building that you talk about, not only with the athlete, but there's supporting people and then giving them the model to create relationships in their own life for the people who are important for the different things. And I love that because I think at the end of the day, it all comes back to relationships. And we talked about this a little bit at the player development summit. Hey, look out. Yeah, come on, come on. That one's gonna come out here soon, but we talked about retention. You all do a great job at retention. It is what it is. I hate to call it free agent, but it is what it is at the portal, and you all do a great job there. And it's pretty cool when you see the draft and you see the free agent signings you all have, and people have been here for like excuse me, for multiple years. So that's that. Now you talked a little bit of how you're preparing. Kind of want to go back over that question just in case you left anything out, but I said they gonna watch it. Don't give them too much. But that preparation, I know you have a team. What does that look like with your team in preparation of this? And you and I both know there's gonna be challenges that you're gonna find out during the season and like, oh, we thought about this, but this actually is happening right now. But what does that preparation look like for
Yeah, with the house settlement rolling out, I mean, I think even from the top all the way to our AD Rob Mullins, to our head coach, and then all of us, coaches and support staff, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Everybody's learning. We just have to be flexible, and be transparent and genuine with our guys, and letting them know we don't know everything and what it's going to look like, but we're going to give you the best of what we do know. And be innovative and create an infrastructure to where it's going to be the best for the student athlete, best for the entity of the university, the institution as well, but the entity of the athletics department. And so really, we start on day one. My guy Carl Holmes does a great job of starting these
oh,
guys up.
Son of
Yeah,
God.
oh, we got to get him to the
We
player
got to,
development
man.
here.
We got to.
He's doing really big things. And he partners with this organization called Radical Hope.
Mhm.
And so they actually just came in and spoke with our guys that came in April and June, because we're on quarters, and
Right,
so
yeah.
we have the opportunity to bring guys in January, April, and in June. And so those guys came in from Radical Hope. Gene Smith and Herb. Man, I apologize, Herb. I'm blanking on your last name right now, but do a phenomenal job with our student athletes, guys that have been in the industry for a long, long time. Herb has been working with the San Diego Chargers, LA Chargers, since they were the San Diego Chargers way back in the day. He's a sports psychologist working with their athletes from a mental standpoint. And then Gene Smith just being in administration at Arizona State, guy that was on his way, and doing great things, pivoted a little bit, but, and that's life, and that's life. But do a great job of setting our guys up for success so that when they get into these team workshops and guest speaker opportunities, that they're understanding and they have the base level information and understanding to, act accordingly in those settings. And so, we talk about emotional intelligence. We talk about identifying your principles and your priorities in life. We talk about managing your stress and identifying your stress. First identifying and how we're going to manage it, and then goal setting, and then creating next steps for yourself and an action plan. And so, predominantly, the guys that go through that course every single year are our freshmen, our newcomers. And so Carl does a great job of, enhancing that maturation process, kind of speeding up a little bit. And because again, like our guys are thinking at a different clip. The regular 18-year-old kid is not thinking about that over on campus. And if they are, kudos to them. They're on their way too. But
Definitely.
we're trying to build young leaders and young adults at an earlier age. And it's, again, like I said at the beginning of the call, I wouldn't necessarily say it's quote unquote fair, or traditional, but it's the life that we've signed up for. And
Right.
it's what's essential to these guys being successful. And emotional intelligence, that's really what college teaches you. How do you understand somebody else's emotions, somebody else's feelings, having empathy, and then how do you also process your own, and
Yeah.
understanding why you're thinking a certain way, and just showing up adequately in different social settings, and communicating effectively. That's the biggest thing. But and again, identifying your principles and your priorities. Most 18-year-olds, like if you ask them to articulate and just spit off what are your values, they probably wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so again, just making sure that these guys are thinking at a higher level, so that they're ready for those conversations when it comes. Because if you don't understand your true self, that's the basis. If you don't understand, if you're not self-aware and you don't have a true understanding of who you are, I can put the best financial advisors from Merrill Lynch in front of you, or JP Morgan Chase, and like they give you some direction, but you don't have any goals because you don't necessarily know, the direction that you want for your life or who you actually are. And so, or you may be able to move in a direction, but it's not going to be as purposeful as you would want it to be. And I would stand on that. It's not going to be the success, that it's not going to be at the highest level, which you would want it to be. So that's why we take a lot of pride and starting on day one from when these guys first get here to bring them into the fold and build that connection. And again, we're very vulnerable. We're talking about our true selves, and we're letting our brothers know who we are. And it's really powerful when you're in those rooms and you got these 5-star guys that are highly sought after, and everybody's stroking their ego, and you hear their stories, and they're just like the next guy,
Yeah.
5-star or not. And it allows those guys to kind of put down that barrier and to see their teammate as just another human being and hold them accountable, but then also have some grace for them. And I think that's a powerful thing.
I love that. I love that connection. There's so much strength and connection, especially with this new reality, like you said, you all are facing. Now, before we end, I want you to just, I know I heard you talk at the summit, and man, you was going in, man. You was going in. You was going in, and you really encourage a lot of people. Was there anything you want to encourage people in player development, people, parents, coaches, anybody dealing with athletes in this new model? Just encouragement to them, or just a strategy for them to like, hey, it's here and we got to get rolling. So
Yeah,
anything you would like to, or any parting thoughts you have,
yeah.
whatever.
I would just say keep running the race. There's a reason why you got into this space, and just because these guys are making a lot of money, and they're doing a lot in this space and things are changing, don't lose hope. That's something that I always, one thing that Coach Lanning always, encourages us to do is put your goals on your mirror, being able to have them visible so that you continue to recite those goals. And it's something, I don't know what it is, but it comes to fruition. And the more you're confident in those goals, and I would encourage everybody that's listening to this is write those goals on the wall, on your mirror, on a wall, whatever, and continue to recite those because those are going to bring you back to your why you're in this space. And it may not be the most lucrative, from the employee standpoint, the salaries that we're able to obtain in these roles, but you're doing God's work. You're transforming lives, and whether these guys know it, these women, these young men, they know it. You are, and they're gonna look back and thank you for all that poured into their lives, all the resource, all the knowledge, all the time, and the tears and the extra effort that you put in to making them a better person, to making their experience a little bit easier, and worth their while. They're gonna appreciate you, and it's gonna come back tenfold. And I don't if you may not have kids, I don't have kids yet, but this is the work that you would want your kids to this is how you would want your kids to be poured into.
Absolutely.
And when people trust me and Carl and Coach Lanning and the rest of our staff, with their children, they want to have a young man come before them when they leave our building, after these 3 to 4 years or 3 to 5 years. And so I take that ownership I don't take it lightly at all. I take a lot of pride in that. And I go to work with our guys every single day. Their problems are my problems, and things don't change just because they're getting paid. I think honestly the work really, I mean, it's needed more now than ever. And there's still 18 to 23-year-old young men, 18 to 23-year-old young women that make the same mistakes that you and I did when we were in college. It's just put on blast, at a higher clip because
Absolutely.
of social media, because of the money that they're making. And there's new mistakes to be made because of those things, and it's on us as the adults, it's on us as the administrators to fill those voids and to change the advice, I guess you can say, enhance the advice that we're giving on different levels, right? But again, Ed, it's a blessing to be in this space with you. It's a blessing to be in front of my peers. I don't take that lightly, as a young guy in this space, continue to learn. I'm the guy that's sitting at the player development summit as a speaker that's ready to take notes, and
Taking
I
crazy notes, y'all. Crazy, taking crazy notes.
right.
Like,
Yeah, because I mean, we don't know everything, man. And I know that the high, I'm far way down from the heights that I'm chasing. And the people that been blessed to have around me, like Landon, he's taking notes in all of my meetings, all the speakers that I bring in. Real estate. We brought in somebody that's talking about real estate. He's wondering how he can invest in real estate, how he can, broaden his portfolio, his investments. And he's 38 years old. A guy that's making like millions of dollars, but continue to learn. So like, who am I? Making and in the position that I'm in, not to continue to learn because I want to be in his chair. I don't want to be a head coach, but
right.
from the resource standpoint, being able to take care of your family, to be able to lead men, and to again, just lead men and to be in a leadership role. Like, that's what I aim to be. And so if that's what he's doing, who am I not to follow suit? And he's not the only one. I've been blessed to have a lot of people in my life that I want to be continuous learners. And I'm a far way down from the heights that I'm chasing, and so I want to continue to learn and continue to make connections in this space. And hopefully my voice, sinks in to some people. They're able to learn something from my insight and my perspective. But again, I have places I want to be, and I know I need the people around me to get there. And so I appreciate you, Ed, for giving me the time, to give me the platform, and go Ducks.
Absolutely. Well, before we end, I got a surprise. We have a surprise giveaway of the player development guide. This is going to be a giveaway. Now, the person wants to get it. Now, if you don't get the giveaway, you can get it here on Amazon. But you have to, in the comment section, you're going to go back, watch Usman's last podcast episode, right? Give me a note from there, and then give me a note from this one, and this will be mailed to you. Now, I'm gonna sign it because I'm in Kansas City. Usman's in Oregon, but this will be on behalf of Usman Kamara. Usman, thank you so much for your time. Somebody's gonna get this. It's gonna change somebody's life. Can't thank you enough. Number one, for just the relationship we built, just your brilliance in this space, how you serve this space, and then for coming to speak at the first in person, yes, 2025 Player Development Summit. Can't thank you enough for that. So, thank you for your time. And am I doing it right? There it is.
You see the O's on the chairs
I
here.
see it, man. That's nice. I get to see the facility. Thank
Got the
y'all so
roll.
much for making time. And hey, maybe I'll be in Oregon. We'll see. Y'all have a good one. As I always say, go out and create generational impact. Don't wait, create that generational impact today. Let's go.